So Steve joined the group just a few months ago, right?
Yes.
So I'm pretty excited to have him present for us today. He's got a category that I think needs a little explaining, so I'm really excited to hear his presentation today. So take it away, Steve.
I'm going to set my timer here too. Okay, so budgets, a human story. Let's see if it works. So budgets are, I think budgets a lot of times are misunderstood. They're obviously columns and they have words on the left side and a whole bunch of numbers. But really fundamentally what you have is each of those numbers represents something. It represents, in a company, it represents something that has happened, some type of need, desire, discord sometimes, and then finally agreement. You only do see the numbers on the budgets, but there is a lot behind it. So there is a very much a human story behind it. And so profit and loss, that is your nonfiction. That is what has happened in your business in the previous period, whether it's a month or a year. And you can go in and see what things, there are certain things that have affected others. There might have been something that happened. There was a vehicle that broke down and the company needed to buy a new vehicle. And so something else needed to have less money. So the budget really is the story. It's thoughtful fiction, right? It's the budget about what you think you're going to do as an organization. It's people, if there's multiple people in the organization, it's them coming together and providing all of the stories of their departments, the things that they need, the way they see the vision, and coming together kind of as one as much as possible. So the budget is a group reflecting on the past. So what has been done in the past, and so it's not only the past of the company itself, but what's happened in the world. How was last year different? It's also how's the world changed? The outside influences. You might have more competition, different competition. You might have less demand for one of your products. So things can change, and so that has to be part of the dynamic. It's also the group reflecting on the company vision, how the direction of the company will change. And again, depending on how many people there are, it might be one person. They might have a different vision of what they want to do. Maybe it's more money, more income, more clients. It could be any number of things. And then, of course, where should the money be spent? And that's really where the rubber meets the road, and that's where the hard decisions have to be made. And one thing about, in finance, there's an interesting sort of concept. It's called opportunity cost. And what that means is if you decide to spend, so you have a limited amount of money. And so what that means, if you decide to spend money in one place, it means at the same time you're not going to be able to spend it doing something else. So once you accept an opportunity, you also lose opportunities at the same time. So planning is a bummer, right? But getting
Yeah,
That one.
what's that? Yeah, that's what budget meetings look like.
Is that you? Is that you?
No, I wasn't that well for it. So what happens is at the beginning of the year, you get people together, and again, so if it's just a single person, you're obviously going to have all of your stories. You know what's going to happen. You can look at your research, but if you have multiple people, there could be stories that have happened where you never had the opportunity to talk about some of these things. And then talking about the intention, really, it can bring about enthusiasm and an insight into the company that you didn't have before. So, again, the departments can come together and you can share things you didn't have the possibility to share before. There could be, arguments about, I needed this last year, and, another department might say, well, yes, but the company has changed. We don't need that as much, and, this area needs more. And then, basically, prioritization. So at the end of the discussion, you're going to get to the point where you decide money's going to be spent in these various places, and it's typically pretty specific. So the time investment, right? So the first year, if a company's never had a budget, it can have some difficulties. One of the things is it's that basic talk about having resources, about having finite amounts of money. I think companies can go for a long time and have just a sense of we have this much money, or this is how much money we have in the bank. So it kind of seems like we should spend money this way. When you get into a budget, you're really saying this is the amount of money we have, and these are the very specific ways we're going to allocate that money, that we're going to spend the money. This is the intention of the company. The good news is the following years, it becomes a lot easier, because what you can do is you can use that budget from last year as sort of a template for what you're going to do this year. Again, you can have some changes, some things where it won't be exactly the same, but you'll at least have had those conversations from the previous year, and you can leverage those to go forward and get a new budget. So thinking about it differently. So every one of us, if we do something big in our personal lives, we plan. We talk to people who are affected. We get their input. We see what they think should be done. Building a house, taking a vacation, whatever it might be. You don't just sort of think, well, taking a vacation, some people do that. They just go and they wander. And that can be fine, and that can work out. But with a business, I think you have to be a little bit more intentional and know where you're going to wind up.
I think some people do build a house without a plan.
Yeah.
I've lived in a couple of them.
Yeah. So again, coordination of efforts, the intention, and then getting consensus from everybody. And the consensus from everybody really is important, because that means that everybody's on board and they're going to stick with the plan. So the actual process, so what you want to do is review the prior year. You want to have an operational vision, create an operational vision, determine what the resources you have available, set the priorities. You need to build in flexibility and planning too, that's really important. Come to an agreement, document the plan, and then review the plan during the year. So, I'm going to speed up here. So a lot of times what you do is you review the profit and loss performance. That's really the starting place, because you have a good amount of the information from the previous year. And again, review the last year's budgets. You also probably want to review the successes, some of the initiatives you had before, see what happened within the business. Why were they successes, why were they failures, and why were some not implemented? And then you can perhaps have more information about the initiatives that you take on this year. So operational vision. So you want to anticipate some large purchases. That's going to certainly affect your budget. A lot of times a business needs to create infrastructure, build infrastructure. Again, that might be buying a fleet of new trucks. It might be purchasing new computers. It could be any number of things, but they're large purchases, so that's going to, again, you choose to buy those things, and then you don't have the money for other things, so you have to plan for that. Management might have different direction for the company. They might have a completely different vision. You don't know how much it's going to affect, how much of the company it's going to affect. So you have to talk that through as well. So the change priorities and then new opportunities. There might be new business opportunities available in the market. You might have a new product. You might trash another product because something else is coming up. And then, so you create a list of initiatives and priorities. And so your resources are going to be your money, so that's what the budget is, right? But also within that, you have to see the people that you have, the human resources, the machinery, the physical things you have, and then the different processes. And we can go into that you know, anybody wants to talk about that individually. But then you also have resources such as external companies, which you can leverage as well. So you want to set priorities, and I'm getting close to running out of time, so I'm going to kind of go through these fast. So flexibility. So this is actually an important part. You want to have some discretionary accounts. So you don't want to just absolutely lock yourself into this is how much money we need for this initiative. You want to have some overages, the market might change. You might have unplanned initiatives that just crop up, and you might actually have emergencies, you know, your building floods or catches on fire. And then set asides for like bad debt. If somebody doesn't pay your bills, you need to have money set aside so that you can just write those bills off, and then you don't have to adjust your budget. Things like replacement machinery. So agreement, leadership consensus, and then the final buy-in. And so at the end, you get a draft budget, send it around so everybody can review it. Incorporate any proposed revisions, have another review, see if everybody agrees, and then finalize and publish it. And then the monthly budget review, you just get together with the people in charge of the budget, get together with management, and make any adjustments if necessary. You know, perhaps using those discretionary accounts. All right, so that was 11 minutes.
All right, we have a few minutes for questions.
Hi. What is your, I guess, role in all of this?
It's really coordination. There has to be somebody there that facilitates the discussions, gets the numbers together, runs through them, make sure that they make sense compared to the last year's profit and loss. Talk to the management to make sure that the initiatives are funded correctly. See if there's, see if there are any things that are expected or, should we have these set-asides. Just make sure that the full process is gone through so that the budget should make it such that there are as few surprises as possible during the year. And that there is flexibility for those emergencies. Any other questions?
Other questions?
So you basically, this is beyond bookkeeping and beyond accounting though, right? This is the actual planning process and making the elaboration, I guess.
Right. It's really working directly with management. It's creating long-term goals, not creating long-term goals, but seeing what those long-term goals are. It's visionary. It's what's going to happen in the future, and really making those, asking the hard questions, and making sure that there are at least some answers there. If there's not answers, and a lot of times, one of the benefits of going through something like this is you come up with questions. I didn't know that. I didn't think about it. Yeah, that's something important we should talk about. So, so it's sort of bookkeeping is sort of what happens on day-to-day, month-to-month, and Joe can talk about that in more detail. But this is really, it's sort of long-term thinking, and you can do multi-year budgets as well, cash projections, and that type of thing. Yes.
Would you consider yourself sort of a consultant CFO? Like if a company couldn't necessarily afford to have a CFO, you would just kind of stand in as a consultant sort of position?
Yeah, so in this group I put my category down as fractional CFO, so it's a fraction, so a company doesn't have to employ me full time, but they would have the benefits of that. So, it's overseeing. What I do a lot is overseeing things like the budgets, like planning, strategy, all those things, so that there's a comprehensive one person that a CEO can go to and say, listen, I need this to make this happen, and it's a comprehensive answer.
So you would work with larger companies then? Not like a one, two.
Right.
One last question, anybody? All right. Steve.